A reading from the book of Deuteronomy. Moses said to the people, "Today I have set before you life and prosperity, death and doom. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I enjoin on you today, loving him and walking in his ways, and keeping his commandments, statutes, and decrees, you will live and grow more numerous, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to occupy. If, however, you turn away your hearts and will not listen, but are led astray and adore and serve other gods, I tell you now that you will certainly perish. You will not have a long life on the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and occupy. I call heaven and earth today to witness against you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Choose life then, that you and your descendants may live, by loving the Lord your God, heeding his voice and holding fast to him. For that will mean life for you, a long life for you to live on the land that the Lord swore he would give to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Blessed are they who hope in the Lord. Jesus Christ. Glory to you, O Word of God, Lord Jesus Christ.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "The Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised." Then he said to all, "If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. What profit is there for one to gain the whole world, yet lose or forfeit himself?" The Gospel of the Lord.
Glory to you, O Word of God, Lord Jesus Christ. Glory to you, O Word of God, Lord Jesus Christ.
Well, there's one thing about Jesus, is that he was a preacher. And he preached his heart out. And his preaching was all about the kingdom of God. The whole thing. Everything was included in it. The kingdom of God is coming, was his message, part of it. And as he continued to preach, he also preached by his word, not only by his words, but by his deeds. And so he was a healer. And in his healing, he forgave people. He worked miracles. The miracles were various things, multiplying loaves and fish and so on. But the message was what was important. And the message was how he gave an example of what it means to follow and to be part of God's kingdom. And so he did it day in, day out, for about 3 years. Well, one day he was preaching, and he looked at the people and he said, "Unless or until I am lifted up, or now that I will be lifted up, I will draw all things to myself." And so he'll be like a magnet, drawing people to himself. And the gospel, in John's gospel, he then goes on and basically, and the comment is, and he was talking about the way he was going to die. Lifted up and drawing all things to himself. And so that's exactly what happened. He was lifted up, and while he was on the cross, miserable, dying, there are all kinds of people around. And he reached out to them, and he simply said to God, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." And so, shortly after that, he died. Now, there were other people around. He forgave the ones killing him. Then there were 2 people next to him. 2 criminals, one on each side of him. And they also died. So, that was the end. Nothing more. That cross became the symbol of the kingdom of God. The cross, of all things. The cross is a universal symbol for Christians. Christians everywhere know what the cross is, and so many other people know what the cross is. Cross on the sign of a church or in a house. Cross at any place that you find. This is the sign of the Christian. Yesterday, on Ash Wednesday, we all came to the church. This church, let us say, or another church. And what we did was we received ashes. And the ashes were imprinted on our foreheads. And the words, "Your dust, and unto dust you will return," or "Repent and believe the gospel." And then the sign of the cross, the universal symbol of what it means to be a Christian, kind of embedded in ashes on our foreheads. And that meant everybody could see that this is who I am. So some people are embarrassed by it. They get the sign of the cross and they want to wash it off. Others just want to walk away. Others will go to places and they want to be seen as people who are under the sign of the cross. Not necessarily in those words, but they're Christian. And you notice that that doesn't mean everybody knows who I am. I'm Christian. That seems to be the important thing. Just stop and think for a moment. How many people here in this room know everybody else in the room? Anybody want to raise their hand? Do you know the names of other people in the room? Probably some of them. But for most, it's a whole group of people that come together, but they're in some ways anonymous. Except for the word Christian. And so, they're unknown. We don't know each other's names. And we're not expected to know the names of everybody. It's okay. But nevertheless, we come together. All of us together today, sitting among this group. And in some way, we're united. We're Christian. And we're Christian, especially we recognize it, not only, but recognize it on Ash Wednesday, because that sign is on our foreheads. Christian. Do you ever stop to think of all the Christians that have lived on the face of this earth from the beginnings of Christianity? Just think. We think of angels and the saints, and we sometimes name them. And there are saints that we pray among. And yet there are so many that are Christian who are saints. St. Paul calls us all saints. But we don't know each other. And we're not expected to know each other. So we're unknown. But that doesn't make us less people. Not at all. The fact that we remain unknown, but still have the same cross on our foreheads. This is what's important. Now, it's important to know other people's names, but you can't know everybody. So, do you ever stop and think of, in John's Gospel, the mother of Jesus? Did you know that in that Gospel, she's never named? We just assume, because of the other Gospels, that her name is Mary. But John doesn't say her name at all in the entire Gospel. She's, in that sense, an unknown figure, known as the mother of Jesus, but that's about it. and Jesus as the prophet or the preacher. But there were other ones too. So there we have Mary, whose name is not known in John's gospel, and yet she is the mother of God, and John never names her. And even when she's at the foot of the cross, she's never named. John simply says, and all those people that were there are there, including the mother of Jesus. No name. So let's say we just had John's gospel and no other gospel had been written, then we would never know her name. So there's the mother of Mary. And what we do is we assume that everybody knew who she was. But in the Gospels, she's never even mentioned. No one ever heard of her. The only thing that they know is Mary had a mother. And as Christians, we know that she was the mother of the mother that was never named in John's Gospel. And so she was important. In a sense, you might call her the mother of the Immaculate Conception. Because Mary, in the womb of this other woman, the mother, was born of this woman. Now, years later, this unnamed person, who remained unnamed for centuries, they knew that she was the mother. Mary had to have a mother. And if Mary had a mother and Mary was so great, think of what this mother must have been. And so, centuries later, she was given the name Hannah or Anne. Anne, the one that we venerate today and through these 9 days. Just think, she's like all the other Christians. All the other Christians have no name necessarily in terms of that we all know each other. And yet, she's famous. She's famous for who she is. And when we have someone like that, and we want to give her a name so that we can relate to her. So the name Anne. And we're here today precisely because of that. That she represents somebody that's very important. Now she precedes in one sense, but her choice by God to be the mother of God was a choice that was made from eternity. It didn't just happen. But the Christian community gave her that name so that the community could recognize her as an individual who was so important. And so there are places around the world, certainly here in the United States and in Canada, this devotion to Anne. Healings, the same stuff that Jesus did take place. And so we're here today to reverence her, reverence who she is, and to ask for her prayers, ask for her intercession for us as the people who walk the earth like she walked the earth several thousand years ago. Now, Ash Wednesday joins us together with no greater symbol. And yet there's one other person that is in this whole scene in the life of Jesus. And we've already mentioned who it is. It's not the mother of Jesus, that she's very important. It's not the mother of Jesus, which is important. But with Jesus and in the midst of his dying and the agony that was going on the cross, there were two other people, one on either side of him. And one was crying out, was blaspheming Jesus. Come down from the cross like everybody else was saying. Save yourself and save us. This was going on and on and on. It was ruthless. And there was another criminal. And he was on the other side. And he turned to Jesus. And as he turned, he said something powerful. He said it, and I will sing it. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Can you repeat that with me? Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Again. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. The plea of this man, just remember me. How poignant, how powerful. Nothing else. And the response of Jesus was, today you will be with me in the kingdom. Did it ever occur to you that the final beginnings of the kingdom of God on the earth were on the cross? That all the preaching was wonderful, and all the healings were great, and all the miracles. All of this was a wonder, and people found it all over the place, and they all left him when he was on the cross. Nobody was left behind. His apostles ran for their lives. They wouldn't dare stay around. The chief priests and the elders, the Pharisees and the scribes, all beneath the cross, yelling and screaming and so on, and the agony that Jesus went through, the terrible agony. And then his last words, not only, Father, forgive them, but Father, it's finished. I did what you asked me to do. You sent me to establish the kingdom of God on the earth. Your kingdom, God. And I did it. And now, from the cross, I say it's finished. It's completed. Now the kingdom that God had planned in the craziest way was established ultimately in the midst of agony on the cross. And one person recognized it. It was the criminal. It was next to him, a sinner. We all sin. And this sinner, at the very last moment of his life, said, please remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said, you'll be with me. The kingdom of God on the earth is established in our midst. And Jesus says, you're looking for the kingdom? You don't look up there, you don't look down here. What you do, just look in the present. The kingdom of God is already among you, and you don't even know it. And from the cross, nobody knew it except the criminal. And so, during this novena, what we will be doing is remembering those words that are so gleeful. Those words that we sang. And so, let us once more sing those words. Jesus, remember me.